On today's Four Verts episode, I got 5 blockbuster trade ideas that I've cooked up as mandatory minicamps wrap up this week. So we will get into that. And I got a challenge for all of you guys before we start today's show. If we get 25 new subscribers from this episode, I will drop my 2025 QB rankings this week. We reacted to PFF's rankings a few weeks back. I've got my own list, 32-1 for the projected starters. And if you want that list in video form, let's get 25 new subs on today's video. I'm Harrison Graham. Let's jump right in here. Trey Hendrickson to the Bears. Maybe. I think there's logic on both sides of the coin here. Clearly, Hendrickson is frustrated. He's not happy with how things have gone in Cincinnati. He wanted a new deal last year, probably was justified in it, didn't get one, decided to play, led the NFL in sacks, and then a year later still can't get a new deal. Sounds like they're far apart on negotiations. There was a report out there that Cincinnati's offered $28 million per year, which, based on how productive he's been and still being relatively young at 30 years old, is kind of a slap in the face, which is how he and his camp are taking it. I thought Spotrac put a good number out there for Hendrickson. Their projected contract extension for him is a 3-year, $100 million contract. It would double his money this year from $16 to $32 million. Then gets $59 million practically guaranteed for the next 2 years. Like I think that's a pretty reasonable deal for Trey Hendrickson because he's not Myles Garrett. He shouldn't get $40 million per year, but I think $33 per year on like a 3-year extension with 2/3 of it guaranteed is fair for everyone involved. And I really like the mention here of Danielle Hunter, who got a 1-year $35.6 million extension. I think on like a 3 or 4-year deal, 36 per year is too much. But he got almost that on a 1-year extension. I think Hendrickson's a bit better than Hunter. So if you give him a 1-year extension, I'd give him like 37 a year. But if it's like a 3-year extension, I think like 33 is the sweet spot. I think that's totally fair. You top Hunter's guarantees there over the next 2 seasons, and you call it a day. I think that would be a fair offer for Trey Hendrickson because as good as he is as a pass rusher, he's average to above average as a run defender. That's where like a Myles Garrett separates a TJ Watt. Like they're just complete total badasses, whereas Hendrickson's a dominant pass rusher, but I don't want to say he can get exposed as a run defender, but he's not necessarily like an all-pro caliber player in that part of his game. But in today's game, if you can get after the quarterback, that is so valuable. And for the Bears specifically, look, I've said this on our Bears YouTube channel, which I host, which I know a lot of you guys know. And for those who don't, I do. This team has made a lot of improvements on the roster this offseason. But they kind of feel a Montez Sweat injury away from being pretty rough coming off the edge on defense. There was reports out of Bears minicamp that Dominique Robinson, who's entering the 4th year and final year of his rookie contract, who's basically done nothing in 3 years, was getting some first-team reps over Dayo Odeyingbo, who they paid $48 million to and $32 million guaranteed in free agency. Not going to overreact to that, but that's not a nothing burger. And even if Odeyingbo was looking good so far, I still think they're pretty thin at edge. I think Hendrickson's a piece that could take that defense over the top and maybe take that team over the top if Caleb Williams takes the proper steps. So I think Chicago for Trey Hendrickson, if they feel good about where Caleb in the offense is, could make a lot of sense if they're trying to win in this rookie contract window for Caleb. Okay, here is my trade idea. Hendrickson to the Bears for a 2nd in the next year's draft, then a 6th in the year after that. Don't really know exactly what he's going to get in a trade if Cincinnati moves on. I'm sure they want a 1st. I don't think they're getting a 1st, so I think it's either a 2 or a 3 and then some extra day 3 pick. If it's a 3, it's probably like a 4 or a 5 with the 2nd pick. If it's a 2, 6th round pick feels fair. So that's my trade idea. We'll see if it ends up happening, but Bengals got a lot of work to do if they're going to keep Trey Hendrickson. Okay, Jalen Ramsey to the Rams. I think out of all these, if I had to predict one that I firmly would, put money on is the most likely to happen, I would pick this one. He is absent from mandatory minicamp, but is excused from Miami because they are trying to facilitate a trade for Ramsey to other suitors. I think Jair Alexander getting cut has probably slowed down the timeline of this a little bit, as cornerback needy teams are probably poking around that as a possibility as well versus having to trade for Ramsey's big contract. But I think the Rams make too much sense. For one, Sean McVay came out and said we probably would not go down the route of Jair Alexander, whereas previously he had spoke really highly of Jalen Ramsey and, basically said what he was allowed to say about a player on another team. But in other words, if you paid attention, it's obvious how much he thinks of him as a player. Obviously, there's familiarity there. Ramsey helped them win a Super Bowl a few years ago. So I just think it makes a lot of sense from they need a corner. Sean McVay really likes him. He has spoken highly about the idea of potentially making this move. And he shut down the idea of signing Jair Alexander. So is he kind of signaling, hey, we're working on a Ramsey trade? I don't know, but I do think that is a possibility and would make sense on both sides. So Jalen Ramsey to the Rams from Miami for a 5th and a 6th. And you're probably saying a 5th and a 6th for Ramsey. Well, the big part of this is the contract. Jalen Ramsey is a 30-year-old corner making a ton of money. And the Dolphins, when they trade him, they want the new team to take on a lot of the cash flow here. So if the Rams are willing to eat the cash and they have a rich owner, so they probably would, that would prevent them from having to trade like a 3rd-round pick potentially. So 5th and a 6th for Ramsey, one this in the next draft and one in 2027. Okay, Jonnu Smith to the Steelers. I think it's pretty obvious that Pittsburgh is going to try and get another weapon here. Now, Smith is not excused for mandatory minicamp, but he is skipping as well in Miami. He wants more money. The report out there is that he'd prefer to stay with the Dolphins, but if they're not going to pay up, he'd be open to a trade as well. Schefter has reported on this. The Steelers have shown interest in a trade because Arthur Smith has a relationship with Jonnu Smith, playing for him in Tennessee and in Atlanta. And it's been pretty well reported now that Rodgers is on board that they want to get another weapon because they traded for DK Metcalf, but they sent out, obviously, George Pickens to Dallas, so they need another piece there. They got Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin, but they don't have like that second guy. I'm not saying Jonnu Smith is like a dominant number 2 weapon, but wouldn't cost a ton and is a piece that knows the offense, right? So could fit in pretty darn well. So Jonnu Smith to Pittsburgh for a 5th. I think something in that range, 5th, 6th is probably what you'd be looking at. In Miami's case, you trade a couple of pieces off, get some extra day 3 draft capital, gives you more ammunition for the next couple of drafts. Okay, Romeo Dobs to the Commanders. Now, this might kind of sound like it's coming out of nowhere, but right before we started filming this video, Noah Brown, it was reported, got carted off the field at Commanders minicamp. And not ideal timing, just it never is with an injury. We'll see how serious it is. But you've also got the Terry McLaurin holdout happening because he wants a new contract. If you lose Noah Brown, who's not great, but he's a good, rotation piece here, you're going to need another player because Deebo Samuel, he's not really just a pure wide receiver that, hey, go separate consistently. Like, he's kind of a do-it-all player, but he's not going to win consistently against good corners in this league. Romeo Dobs, different type of player, right? Route runner, can catch back shoulders, thing like that. With Deebo, you kind of have to manufacture touches, so Dobbs can kind of just fit into the flow of an offense, whereas Deebo, you kind of have to have a plan for. If Brown's injury is serious, and we'll see what reporting we hear, they're going to need a receiver regardless of Terry McLaurin, which I'm not including him in this video because the Commanders have to get that deal done. They can't afford to lose Scary Terry because then that is one of the worst receiver rooms in the NFL. Now, even more so if Noah Brown is seriously injured. So, guy like Romeo Dobs, crowded wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers. Someone's going to be the odd man out. I could see him being a piece that emerges on the trade market. So, here's my trade idea. Just fifth and 7th round pick swap here. Commanders get Dobbs in a 7th. Packers get a 5th. I don't think Green Bay would have a ton of leverage in trade value with Dobbs because, again, they drafted 2 receivers. They still have Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, who's coming off an ACL, so we'll see what his status is, and a few other guys, Dontavian Wicks as well. I think Dobbs could be a guy they would move on from. And then back to a bigger name, James Cook to the Cowboys. Now, Dallas hasn't taken a big swing like this in a trade since Amari Cooper, but that one worked out pretty well for the Cowboys. James Cook could be a piece that takes that Dallas offense to the next level as they kind of transitioned to this Brian Schottenheimer era post Mike McCarthy. Cook is reportedly unhappy amidst lack of contract talks with himself and Buffalo. The only reason he reported at training camp, not training camp, mandatory minicamp, was to avoid fines. He said, I like my money. That's why I'm here. So I don't think it was some sign of like, a deal is close. I think it's more of, I don't want to lose $100,000 when I could just show up and do work off to the side. He's been a really good player, man. And I've said it. He's not Saquon. He's not a healthy Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he's as dominant of a player as a Derrick Henry, but he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, you can play him on all 3 downs. He has less than 700 touches on his body in the NFL, so it's not like he's been run into the ground by Buffalo. No, I think the Bills would be silly to trade him because I think he's a big part of their offense since Joe Brady has taken over as the offensive coordinator. But I look at a team like Dallas. Yikes. I just do not like this room. I mean, they drafted Jaden Blue, who I think is an explosive player who could do some things. I don't think he can carry a load. Javonte Williams has trended down for years now since his injury a couple of years ago. Miles Sanders has been phased out of his last 2 teams, Philadelphia and Carolina. They drafted Phil Maffa as well, but a late-round pick there. I think you put James Cook into this offense, they're pretty dynamic across the board. Dak, if he's back and healthy, regardless of what you think of him, he's a top 10, top 12 guy when he's healthy, and he wins 10-plus games a year historically. You would have James Cook, a top 10 running back. You would have CeeDee Lamb, a top 5 receiver, and George Pickens, top 25 receiver, right? Like one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL. Only concern there is, kind of the mentals. Like, can you keep him in check? But if you can, that's a damn good 1-2 punch. If Jake Ferguson bounces back, point is, like, your skill group is pretty good if you add a good running back. But right now, that running back room, it's one of the worst in the league, man. So I think a guy like James Cook, if Jerry's ready to pay up for a running back like he once did for Zeke, which didn't work out well, but on a shorter-term deal for a guy who I think can age better than Ezekiel Elliott, I think it could make sense for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, here's my trade idea. James Cook to Dallas for a 4th and a 6th. Dallas doesn't have a 3rd-round pick. I think Buffalo would probably ask for that if they shopped James Cook, but they traded a 3rd for Pickens. So give them a 4th, throw in a 6th next year, call it good. I don't think they'd give up a 2nd for an expiring running back, but I think an early day 3 pick and then a mid day 3 pick could potentially get a trade over the finish line if things continue to go south between Cook and Buffalo. All right, there you go. 5 trade ideas. Name a player that you want to see get traded, whether it's for your favorite team or whether it's just a player on another team. Who would you like to see get dealt between now and training camp? Let us know down in the comments below. My name is Harrison Graham. Appreciate you guys tuning in. More content to come. And again, if we get 25 new subscribers, I'm releasing my top 32 quarterbacks among the projected starters in the NFL for 2025. So hit that subscribe button. Let's make it happen.